Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Craven County. Craven County Board of Commissioners regular session for Monday, June 18th is now in session. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Commissioner Liner?
Here.
Commissioner McCabe?
Here.
Commissioner Sampson?
Here.
Commissioner Tyson?
Here.
Vice Chair Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Martin?
Yes. Could we stand for the pledge, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone bow your head, please. Thank you for everyone gathering here now as we surrender ourselves with respect. We ask that you will come by the Holy Spirit and inspire our hearts today. Come fill our lives with your love. Fill our conversation with your grace and trust. Fill this meeting with your presence. We ask this for your glory and your presence. Amen.
Amen.
Gentlemen, you've all had an opportunity to look over the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it. I would like to take Chairman's privilege for a few minutes this morning. We have a gentleman in the audience by the name of Tabara Wallace, who I'd like to come up to the front of the room.
Yes.
Right there is fine.
It's a big front of the room.
Tabara, I have a resolution I want to read to you, okay?
Okay.
Resolution recognizing Craven County native Tabara Wallace. Whereas Tabara Wallace is a native of Craven County Schools, having gotten his start at Baggett Elementary, Oaks Road Elementary, F.R. Deas Elementary, and H.J. McDonald School, and J.T. Barber, 9th grade. And whereas he is the 1993 graduate of New Bern High School, who was wide receiver and defensive back for the Bears, and where he earned a full athletic scholarship to East Carolina University as a walk-in on member of the Pirates football team, and whereas Tabara Wallace earned a bachelor's degree in rehabilitation services from ECU 1997, and whereas Tabara Wallace played professional football for the Peoria Pirates and the Houston Thunder Bears, and whereas while his success on the football field was admirable, he went on to achieve master's degrees in school administration, school counseling, and physical rehabilitation, and where he has served as an educator in NBHS Tucker Creek Middle School prior to becoming principal of Havelock Middle School from 2008 to 2015. He is principal of H.J. McDonald Middle School in 2015-17, where he has helped boost student performance, and whereas in 2017 he was inducted into the New Bern Hall of Fame, and whereas Tabara Wallace now serves as principal of West Craven High School, where he attributes his success to his belief in lead teachers, instructional abilities, and his students' motivation to overcome any family perception placed upon them, and where he has always exhibited exceptional leadership skills and display an array of knowledge and instincts needed to aspire, guide, champion his teachers and students, whereas Tabara Wallace named 2018 Wells Fargo, North Carolina Principal of the Year. Now therefore, the Craven County Board of Commissioners acknowledges the remarkable achievements of a native son, Tabara Wallace, and commends him for his tenacity, being a positive role model for his teachers and students, and always striving for the improvement of himself and his school. Thank you.
Said,
Shake everybody's hand.
oh, I'm coming, I'm coming.
Me too.
If you'll give me that back so I can sign it.
Good luck, man. Thank you, bro.
Would the clerk of the board come up and sign this, please?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
I'd just like to say that I've been known to borrow Wallace ever since he was a child. I knew his whole family. In fact, our families joined together, and I'm very proud of him. We had a little get-together all the time. I always get on because he never invites me out there. He said, well, you just come. and I'm just proud of him because he loved kids. And I know what some of the kids have to go through with in our community today, and he's dedicated. He's a dedicated person, always have been dedicated. He's a young man that can be an example for other young people.
Yes, sir.
I'm that's so proud of him. That's not, I don't say that very often, but that's good, feel good to say it about a person who dedicate his life. You don't see Tabaros running the street, up and down the street. If he's somewhere, he's doing something positive. And I'm really proud of him.
Thank you, thank you.
Chair,
Commissioner.
can I say one, about, Wallace?
Okay.
I don't know Wallace that well, but I did meet Wallace at the middle school in Hal Block, and I always meet him at Black History Month. And I have never in my life seen, you can find too many days there, a man with smile every time you see him. He smile before you shake your hand, he smile after you shake your hand. And I'll give my hats to you, man. You should be an actor now. Movie star. But you're doing good, and thank God for your work and your success.
Thank you, Commissioner McKay. All right,
Well, I know Mr. Wallace. He had two schools in Havelock, and both schools were high producers, and we've become friends. And his kids have great respect for him, and his kids have got the same smile when they see him. So he puts that out there for them. So he is an example. I think he's shown what he can do, and his success is unbelievable for you.
Thank you,
I
Commissioner.
thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Chairman, I would remind the board that he's principal of West Craven High School. And I'm very proud of that.
Is that the high school I went to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Commissioner Jones, this is his year right here. He's got the Teacher of the Year and Principal of the Year out west. Thank you all for those kind words. Actually, for once in my life, speechless. But as I would remind the commissioners, no captain can do anything without a ship to sail on. And y'all have made Craven County Schools the ship to sail on. No one can do it by themselves, surrounded by a great team, a great family. And I'm extremely humbled to be standing here before you, especially to hear all the words on the proclamation. I'm gonna have to get me a fancy frame for this one. I really am. But I always turn it back to the kids, gentlemen. They're the future. Y'all know that. I mean, y'all definitely taking care of Craven County Schools over your tenure. As I'm humbled up here and delighted to be the North Carolina Principal of the Year and to get this great proclamation, I'm proud and extremely favored to be a product of Craven County Schools. So, okay. Thank you.
I'd like to say his mother has just come in, Melissa.
Oh, glad to have you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda to approve minutes of June 4th, 2018 regular session,
So
May
moved.
22nd and 23rd, 24th
Second.
reconvene. Give me a chance to read it, please. tax releases and refunds, and also the approval of the proclamation for C. Tabara Wallace.
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Martin?
Yes. All right, we have a public hearing related to the award of state-funded forgivable loan for the expansion of building occupied by existing North Carolina company.
Move to go into public hearing.
Second.
We want to hear from Timothy first? Okay.
Mr. Veit asked me to come up and just to sort of set the stage. So, good morning. Back in March, you might remember I came up before you and sought permission to actually apply for a grant for Chatsworth, on behalf of Chatsworth Products, to apply to the Building Reuse Program, which is under the Rural Grants Program section of the North Carolina Department of Commerce. We did that and since have been awarded that grant. It's a $180,000 grant. Requires a 5% local match. That 5% is being provided by the Craven 100 Alliance. And so what we have today is a public hearing in order to authorize the commission to approve essentially all the documents that go with the project. And primarily it's a grant agreement between the county and the state, because the way, as you probably remember, is the way the state works. The state provides the funds to the county as the facilitator for economic development, and then we would then provide those funds to the company in following. So I guess at this point, if you have any questions, I can answer them, or we can go into public hearing and I can follow up.
Before we go into public hearing, if there's anybody that'd like to leave the room, they can leave. Okay? Nice seeing you.
Mass exit.
Clear the mouth.
Okay, we have a motion to go into public hearing. We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it. We're now in public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, nobody has signed up to participate in the public hearing segment of today's agenda.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I move to go out of public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it. Any questions that anybody wants to ask Timothy?
No, I'd just like something so people will understand that the matching part of the grant, Timothy, is being furnished by the
Craven 100 Alliance.
C100 Alliance.
Yeah.
That's the Craven 100 Alliance. That's a nonprofit that was formed 3 or 4 years ago to raise money primarily from the private sector, so that when you had opportunities such as this, then you could you have the funds available and not have to reach into the taxpayers' coffers in order to match these grants and do other things for economic development as well.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, we have public hearing number 2, or 3, is it? No, we went out. This public hearing related to the sale of real property in the Craven County Industrial Park. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
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 Timothy?
Well, so this one is also related to something I brought before you a few weeks ago. Essentially, we have several lots at the industrial park, and this is one of them. This is at the end of Corporate Lane, which is on the south side of the industrial park. And we have an interested buyer, and so we need to go through the process of selling our property. This is the statutory process that we follow, having a public hearing. And again, this is lot 27. It's a 5.4 acre lot. It is The tax value on our books right now is $81,000. The market value, as you recall, we've established our market value for our industrial park at $20,000 an acre, so that would equate to $108,000. So you also might remember that this is a parcel that we used in the past to support one of our other projects back in 2015 when Minji's was building their new facility on Corporate Lane. They had to remove some excess soil. That soil was then deposited on Lot 27. It's about 16,000 cubic yards, and we do have a plan to remove that prior to the interested buyer actually taking ownership. So,
Okay. Do we have anybody for the public hearing?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a motion? Is there anybody in the audience that would like to comment? Being nobody in the audience, do I have a motion to go out of public hearing? Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, there is obviously a difference between the value of the underlying land and that which we're going to be selling it. It should be noted to the taxpayer that over the last number of years, this land has produced no revenue whatsoever. And that with the building that's going to be placed on this parcel of land, we anticipate that the difference between the sale price and the value of the property itself will be made back in about 4 years, just from the property tax alone on the improvement of the land, not to mention all the rest of the benefits that will come about from having the new employees on that property and everything else that comes with it. So, Timothy, thank you very much for your hard work on this. I think that it's turning an asset that's been doing nothing for us into something that's going to finally be usable. So thank you.
It's exciting.
Mr. Chairman, if I could also speak on that matter, it says the tax value is $81,000, we're selling it for $62,000. I'd like to point out that the $62,000, I believe, is what we sold Pepsi, the land.
Correct.
Which is essentially across the street, is that right?
Yes.
That 16,000 cubic yards of dirt that's piled up on the lot that we're selling right now came from the Pepsi site. And so the reason why we're selling that land at 62,000 is because they're going to have to move 16,000 yards of dirt off that property as well. And that the cost to do that will probably cost them a couple of $100,000. I'd say between north of 100,000 and probably south of 200,000. But by the time you excavate it and remove it from the property, so it's a good deal for us, really. I mean, it's a good deal for the taxpayers.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And as you, obviously, I'll be back up here later as in the agenda where we actually approve some of these items. So, thank you.
Okay, next is the county manager and the finance director. And I think they're going to be happy to come up and consider adoption of the 2018-19 budget.
Mr. Chair, Board of Commissioners, I'm so pleased to be here today to present to you the final budget ordinance from the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget. Just a couple quick notes. You had your public hearing as required by general statutes on June 4th. There were no comments at that time. This is a balanced budget as required by law. It maintains the current tax rate of 53.94 cents. It uses no fund balance and is maintaining a strong push of what we like of fiscal responsibility into Craven County, where we continue to fully fund our capital reserve account for now almost 6 years, along with fully funding the departments in a manner in which is efficient to the operation of county government. Unless there's questions, I would ask that you adopt the fiscal year 2018 to 2019 budget ordinance, which has been put before you. And I'll turn over, I don't know if Craig do you have any additional comments? Okay.
Are there any questions by any of the commissioners?
I move, Mr. Chairman, to adopt the budget.
Second.
Okay, we need a roll call vote.
Certainly. Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Martin.
Yes. And I'd like to thank the county manager, the assistant county manager, and the finance director and his staff. I don't know if anybody realizes, but it takes a couple months to put a budget together. In addition to that, then it takes 3 or 4 days for the commissioners to pick apart his budget. And the work that goes into this budget is unbelievable, and I think they should be commended for the work they've done this year.
Thank you, sir. I would just point out that the heavy lifting is the guy behind me and the two folks over there. I'm blessed with a very smart team around me, and they do a great job.
Mr. Chairman, if I could say a word on the budget, this is my final budget, and I have to say it was probably the easiest budget since I've been on the board for 12 years. And I think Craven County should be proud of the fact that we have one of the lowest tax rates in the state. In addition to that, we have fully funded the capital reserve to the extent of $1 million. We've given the school board, school superintendent what they ask of us. We gave the community college what they ask of us. We're adding some positions to the sheriff's office. And it's just been, we're fortunate here that we're seeing the results, I think the fruits of a long-term plan by this board and the staff to keep tax rates very affordable here. And that tax rate is attractive to a lot of people that are retiring, not just from up north, but from other parts of North Carolina, and come here and see how effective our tax rate has been. So thank you, board, and thank you, staff.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, when I first came on this board 8 years ago and we had the opportunity to pass the first budget, one of the things that I'd asked that get done was for the staff to present us with the statutory basis for each of the programs that we have. And you were able to do that very effectively. But over the period of 8 years, you folks have refined this process to where we had a supplement that was provided to us at the beginning of this year, which went through and specifically looked at each and every statute, either federal or state, that justified the expenditure that we're making, and then talked about the number of employees that we've got in each department. And it was a tool that I believe is very responsive to the needs of the taxpayers, and it demonstrates your commitment to making certain that we as a board are fulfilling our responsibilities as mandated either by federal or state law, and we are carrying out those responsibilities. There obviously is some money in here that goes beyond some of the things that we're mandated to have to do, and I think that this board worked very hard to make certain that when we were spending those monies, that we were putting those investments into things where if it weren't for those entities that were providing the service, it would be something that would be borne by the taxpayer more directly and probably less efficiently. So with all that said, you know, I know people are going to probably say, okay, well, this is a budget that's $4 million less than it was last year. Why is it that you're not dropping our tax rate? Well, it's $4 million less because we're also having to provide less service and we're receiving less income from the state government. That's the reason that it's $4 million less. Not that we've got any less responsibility from the local perspective. So again, thank you very much, and it's been a sincere honor working with you folks over the last 8 years and learning about this process, but also seeing it mature as well as it has.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your kind words.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Singh.
I'd just like to commend the board, commend the citizen and our staffs for such an outstanding job that they have done during the year. I just wanted to thank our staff who provided us with all the information that we needed to make the decision. I've been up here, this is my 22nd year, and I never worked so hard on a budget as we have this year, along with the other commissioners. We spent a lot of time on this budget. And I'm just so proud of Craven County, doing an outstanding job for the citizens in Craven County. That we might not agree on everything, but we work hard to see that the citizen has the greatest budget that we could possibly put together. I don't remember any of the commission that took time off, all this time that we spent to try to attend to others outside affairs. So I'm proud of this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Simpson. I would just like to mention that 8 years ago, on coming on this board has had the ability to, a tax rate of 8 years ago, I believe was 6.18 or, and the tax rate right now is 5.394. That means the tax rate has gone down. But not only has the tax rate gone down, most people are paying less taxes this year than they did 8 years ago. And I think that's to be commended by this whole board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Board.
Okay, Mike Carroll, Department Matters Cooperative Extension Request to accept funds for new grant to extend drone flights in tobacco and peanuts.
Chairman
Are you
Mark.
in tobacco and peanuts?
Beg your pardon? Oh, I can answer that. Good morning. Yes, some time ago I came before the board and you approved several grant projects. One of them was a pesticide container recycling facility and the other was the use of drones for tobacco and peanuts. I want to give you a quick update. The pesticide container project is 90% complete and we plan to open it up July the 5th. And so we'll have a meeting on that, and we have spent those funds, and we'll be seeking reimbursement very soon. The answer, Commissioner Mark, was, or Chairman Mark, excuse me, is that there are a lot of work and data available for corn and soybean crops because a lot of the research is done in the Midwest, but there is not a lot of information for peanut and tobacco crops in terms of using drones to detect early season problems or management or disease. So we wanted to see if that was possible. And so through Mount Olive, we got an Ag Prime grant, and we were originally scheduled for 100 acres of peanuts and 100 acres of tobacco. I had the opportunity, and it was very short notice, and I apologize not being able to come before the board, but it was such an extreme short notice. Through North Carolina Cooperative Extension Innovation Grant, they were going to award 5 grants of $25,000, but the notice was very quick. And so I applied, and we were originally to receive word of who was going to get that in April, and they were overwhelmed with applications and told us it would be June or July. About a week ago, I did receive notice from North Carolina State University that we were one of the recipients of an award. And so today, what I would like is just permission to accept this award and start that process and allow the county to administer that grant funds. What it will allow us to do is expand into another 100 acres and then include dual flights. We'll have what is EO, or just a normal camera, as well as multispectral imaging, perhaps even thermal. So we'll have dual flights on each field, and then we'll share that information with our partners at North Carolina Department of Agriculture and North Carolina State University. This grant also included mileage, which I'm actually very thrilled, so it doesn't tax our drone pilot who's currently employed in the military. Gives him a little extra bit of funding. It also included participation at professional meetings, and I mention that because obviously I hope to be one of those to benefit from this $3,200 available, but it may also be one of our partners. We have engineers, we have specialists in pathology, and so should we discover something, then some of these funds would be used to attend some professional meetings. All of this will be in the following fiscal year. None of this will be in the current fiscal year. And so I will appear before the board sometime during the next fiscal year and request the unspent balance of the Ag Prime funds as well as this one to be added to the following fiscal year. And so today I just ask permission to proceed. We received $24,881 from the Ag Foundation, or we will, excuse me, and the total project of what I'm calling the NC Collaborative Innovation UAV project, or we'll probably just call it the Collaborative UAV project for short, is $54,844.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept
moved.
these funds?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Carts Budget Amendment, Kelly Walker.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
The Rural Operating Assistance Program is a state-funded grant Craven County receives from the North Carolina Department of Transportation. Allocations are formula-based. NCDOT sends the money to the counties throughout the course of the year. If a county does not spend the entire allocation amount within a specific fiscal year, the disbursement for the next year is reduced by that unspent amount. The allocation is not affected, just the disbursement. This is because the county has already received the amount that is reducing the disbursement. For Craven County, any money that has been received but not spent goes into the general fund at the end of the fiscal year. At the end of fiscal year 2017, CARTS had an unspent balance of $27,392.64 for the EdTap portion and $33,411.09 for the rural general public portion. We are asking that a portion of the unspent balance be moved from the general fund and into the respective line item so that there will be sufficient revenue to cover transportation billed to those programs.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if I can ask, Kelly, what causes this rollover, the funds not being spent? Was it because they weren't needed, or was it because the expenditures come after the end of the fiscal year, or what?
Excuse me, it is allocation based, and this is a program where they send the money ahead of time. All the other programs, we ask for reimbursement as we're spending it on the programs that they're entitled, that they're allotted for. CARTS did not spend all the money. Part of that was because of the changes with the urbanization of where it can be used, like the rural general public is not allowed to be used in the urbanized area, that type of thing. So in the past, they would ask for a reimbursement of that amount, and they've now gone to a procedure of you just hang on to that money, and they don't send as much the following year instead of having the reimbursement happen.
Okay. Any other questions?
Question. Kelly, you're asking, this is a total of about $60,000. You're only asking for $38,000 of it to be put in. Does the other 22, I understand it remains in the general fund, but will you have access to that for the following year? Or does that then just become general fund and it's gone over a 2-year cycle?
No, the state expects the transit systems to have access to it until it's spent. And there's an annual report that is completed to the state that gives them the status of how those funds were spent, how much was spent, if any was left over, that type of a thing. So there is an accounting trail for that money until that money is spent.
So you've got access to it till whenever it runs out?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion, a second. We need a roll call vote.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Martin?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Next is Department Matters Planning, Flood Mitigation Assistance Project, Closeout Budget Amendment, and Ordinance Update. Chip Barley.
Good morning.
Morning.
What we have before you is the closeout of the FY13 Flood Mitigation Assistance, or FMA, project. Craven County had received an FY13 FMA grant of $1,853,360 in late 2014, which was to elevate and retrofit 11 severe repetitive loss properties. At this time, all 11 units proposed for treatment were completed, and the program has been monitored and closed out by the North Carolina Department of Emergency Management. It is recommended that Craven County move forward with local closure of this program. So we're asking for a vote to go ahead and close out the FY13 FMA project.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Discussion.
Chip, how did the budget work out for these? Was the money left over, or you short, or did you have to cut stuff?
If I recall, it was spent out, it was 11 units was probably the most we've seen, that since then, the funding cycle has funded about 5, 6, and this latest one, 5 projects. But with 11, it was challenging at best, but we used all those funds to finish those 11 houses.
Okay, and just to be clear, this money comes from the federal flood insurance program, is that correct?
You have to be on the FEMA severe repetitive loss list, and you have to have active flood insurance. So the monies that fund it come from proceeds from people paying their flood insurance.
Okay. Commissioner Lyon.
Chip, I got one question here for you. You said you spent it all out, but you've got $1,000 left. Does that
I
go
apologize.
back, or does that go?
I apologize if it would be deobligated. We just didn't draw it down. It's a reimbursement
Okay.
project.
Okay.
Any other questions? I think we need a roll call vote.
Yes. Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Martin?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Timothy still here? Economic Development, closeout project budget ordinance for the Executive Parkway Extension Project.
So going back to early 17, we, through the help of Mr. Overholt, Hugh Overholt, and others, we applied for some state funding to extend Executive Parkway. If you remember, we're talking about the south side of the park, and this is a picture of the beginning of the project. But this was, Executive Parkway essentially stopped right after Corporate Lane. And the county owns almost 100 acres past that point. So we felt it important to actually extend that road so we could then develop that acreage. So we applied for that funding. We established a budget ordinance to be able to do the project. And so today what we have before you is closing out that ordinance. So I wanted to give you some insight into the project. We did complete the project in January. It is, oops, sorry, turn it on. The roads that we built are approximately, the extension of Executive Parkway is approximately 1,600 feet. And then as you'll see, there's a new road that goes up into about 80 acres that the county owns. And that road is about 1,100 feet. Our plan is that NC Department of Transportation will take ownership of these roads. They have a policy, if you will, that requires private use of enough private use, commercial use of the roads before they will actually take ownership. But I believe Jack has had some conversations with the Department of Transportation, and we expect that this will not be a problem for Department of Transportation to take ownership. Also, we have applied to Duke, if you recall, this 80-acre parcel that is adjacent to the new roads. That went through Duke Site Readiness Program a couple years ago. And one of the conditions of one of the benefits of that program is that we can apply for funding from Duke to help support development of the parcels. And we have applied for an additional $10,000 from Duke, and we're awaiting actual receipt of those funds, but we're certain that we will. So that'll cut the county's cost in the project as well. But you can see there the total expenditures for the project was just over $745,000. $515,000 was that state grant that we received. So that left us with about $230,000. Now that does include the engineering and design of the roads. That was spent prior to the grant in expectation of building the road. And as I mentioned, the project was complete in January of this year. We received our final reimbursement from the state in March of this year. And currently, through the help of our IT department, we're installing fiber conduit, just the conduit, not the actual fiber, but along Executive Parkway and along the new road. Because again, we know that fiber or access to broadband internet is considered a necessity these days. It's not It's not an added benefit so much as it's a required utility for companies to do their work. So I think that's it as far as the project. If you had any questions, be happy to answer.
Okay. Do we have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second. Second. Any discussion?
Got one. Timothy, refresh my mind on here. The total expenditure was $745, but
Right.
we're closing it out at $719. Where's the other $26,000?
Well, the engineering and design of the road was done in 2 phases. And through working with our finance department, it was decided that the initial cost, which was, I think, fiscal 16, was not going to be brought forward into the ordinance because it had, Craig, if you can help.
It had already been expended.
Yeah.
The engineering costs up front, and then he was awarded the grants later on. So that's why
Because it had occurred far enough in the past, it wasn't wrapped into the budget ordinance to be considered part of the overall project.
But in your files, though, this is all one project? You've got your documentation that covers?
yes, sir. It's all, yeah, in the accounting system, it's all grouped as one asset, capital asset. This is how we decided to account for it, because the engineering costs in the previous fiscal year. Right?
I just think for the general public, it would have been good for them to understand, because you're saying one thing, but the documentation says another. I got you. Thank you.
Okay. You have a motion, a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it.
Okay. The second item, I guess item B, is what we had a public hearing on just earlier, is to approve the Rural Economic Development Grant Agreement with the state of North Carolina. We do have Ari Grady here, our attorney. He's reviewed these documents and approved. Essentially, all we need to do right now as the county is to approve that grant agreement, because as a part of the grant agreement, there is several attachments. Some of those are just informational attachments. Others are optional legal documents that we would sign. But what Ari and I have discussed and what I've shared with the company, and we do have Rich Keene. He's project manager from Chatsworth. Rich, you want to raise your hand? And I'll share some project details in a second. But essentially, those extra documents won't be necessary for us because we're going to hold this grant as a reimbursement. So essentially, the mechanics of this will be Chatsworth will complete the project. They'll request the funds of us. We'll disperse the funds to them. Then we'll request those funds from the state. So there isn't any, there's no extending any of obligation on the part of the county towards Chatsworth. It's just, or excuse me, towards the state. It's just us extending the funds, and then the follow-up would be a reimbursement from the state. The other alternative, just to compare, is if we were to give the funds to Chatsworth up front, they were to spend the monies, maybe all or none, they were to create jobs, all or none, then we would have some obligation to the state to ensure that that performance actually occurred. But we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it the way I just described earlier, which is, doesn't put us in a spot where we're essentially extending any sort of credit or promise. So, to some of the details of the project, just to recap.
Timothy, if I can.
Sure.
Forgive me. But we are going to be releasing funds from the county, and then we're going to make application, or we're going to then send a bill to the state.
Correct.
And then they're going to.
Correct.
What is the likelihood of the state not coming through with the money to reimburse us?
Well, 0, as far as I can tell, because the performance that's required by the grant document is that Chatsworth build the building and create the jobs. So those things will have
And
occurred.
we obviously won't do that. We will not release our money until they've done
Correct.
that.
Correct.
And that was the threshold that needed to be met in order for the state to come up with the money.
Correct. Now, there is a retention piece, but that would be required in any situation, meaning the jobs would have to be created and retained. But that's more or less a reporting requirement for us. That's not a requirement to receive funds from the state. So we can receive any funds that we expend based on the actual construction of the building.
The money will be there, and irrespective of what period of time it takes for Chatsworth to fulfill its obligations under the agreement, the money will be there.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll need a motion.
Well, just if you don't mind, real quick, wanted to share their Chatsworth and the drawing is up here, Chatsworth's going to add about 29,000 square feet to their existing facility, and they're adding 15 new positions. The project, it's still, the final numbers are a little fluid, but essentially it's about $1.7 million. And again, the new building is sort of this L shape here. They'll be also building a new concrete slab for trucks. There'll be truck docks here and a turnaround. And then they're also building a new driveway from Industrial Drive to that truck area. As I mentioned earlier, Commissioner Tyson pointed out, we have a 5% local match with this, and that local match is being provided by the Craven 100 Alliance. They are also providing some additional funds to help Chatsworth with the project. And that total amount is about $30,000. I guess that's it as far as the details. If you have any questions about Chatsworth or the project itself, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, let's get a motion first. We'll need a motion then to award the $180,000 in state-funded forgivable loan for the expansion of the building occupied by the existing North Carolina company. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Now, let's discussion. Any other questions? Timothy, did you want to say anything else?
No, that's it.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Nays? The ayes have it.
Thank you. So the last item is, again, what we had the second public hearing on earlier, and that is what I'm calling in my project files, Project Goldfinch. Again, this is Lot 27, the industrial park, 5.4 acres, tax value of $81,000. And we have a company from New Jersey who is interested in purchasing the land and building a building, about a 15,000 square foot building with room to expand. They are looking to purchase. This is not a situation where we have a local owner who would lease back, but they want to purchase the land and build a building. This is a privately held company in New Jersey. They primarily sales and service of high-pressure pumps for industry. Some of their customers are Nucor Steel and Easton and companies like that. So we're pretty excited about this because this would be a relocation for us. So we haven't had a relocation in a while here in Craven County, but it's a small company, but a very good company, and very excited about the prospects of coming to our county. They expect to bring 7 jobs initially, and possibly an additional 12 after that if things go as well as they hope. So as pointed out during the public hearing comments, we are selling this below market value. The value per acre is what we sold the land across the street to Minji's back in 2015. It's $11,625 per acre. So that gets us to a total acreage price of $62,775.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the sale of the property to UREC?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the jail budget amendment. Jesse Pittman.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend and a very happy Father's Day to you.
Oh, yeah.
I brought with me this morning for introduction to the Board of Commissioners our jail captain, jail administrator, Pat McCain. Pat has worked with the Sheriff's Office many years. He's got 35 years of law enforcement experience, retired from the Sheriff's Office, 20 years criminal investigative experience where he retired with us as a lieutenant. He was the former department chair for the Criminal Justice Program out at Craven Community College and was the Law Enforcement Academy Director, Pottsville Police Chief for 5 years, and is currently part-time instructor with Craven Community College Havelock office. And so he has come back to work with us. He started in November of 2017, and he is administrating the jail and has done some contract negotiations, got the county a little better interest rate on some of the things that we are, some of the revenues we're collecting. So we're certainly glad to have Pat with us. I come before you today with a budget amendment to allow for the transfer of $60,000 from outside county revenue line to go into the jail medical expenditure line to cover a shortage. We had projected in last year's budget a revenue amount to come in for our outside counties, and we have exceeded that revenue amount by $65,000. We had projected we would make $135,000 in revenue, but we've actually collected a little over $200,000. And so we have a $65,000 projection increase. And so what I would like to do is to take that monies and move it to a jail medical expenditure line to cover shortage that we currently have in the jail medical line. We had 3 people in safekeeping up in Raleigh. One of them had, or a couple of them actually, had extensive medical issues. One of them was charged with triple homicide, and the other one was charged with murder. And since that time, we only have 2 in safekeeping. But that has helped to drive the cost of this line item. We have to pay $40 a day to the state in order for them to house these individuals, plus any medical expenses that are incurred. And so if we can transfer this amount of money, it will cover outstanding invoices that we have in our jail medical and also the current shortage.
Okay, before we have discussion, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? All right, discussion. Any questions? Being there's no questions, I'll have a roll call vote.
Sir. Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Martin?
Yes, thank you,
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day.
and welcome back. Okay, Department Matters Convention Center, Mary McGee. That sounds like a song.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you today?
Good.
Good, good. And happy Father's Day to all you all.
Thank you.
Happy news to report, the New Bern Riverfront Convention Center will see an increase in their room rental sales for this fiscal year. The convention center will exceed its 2018 projected revenues by 21%. This is an increase of $65,000. The increase in the space rental resulted the convention center in exceeding its 2018 projected spending budget by $24,000 in the contractual line. The increase spending was from extra janitorial cleaning, outside lawn and ground enhancements to the facility, along with extra supplies and services required to support the additional events for this fiscal year. This fiscal year, the facility has hosted over 242 events, which totaled 295 event days, compared to last fiscal year of 223 events, with a total of 287 event days. So I'm asking the board's approval for this budget amendment.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All right, discussion.
Mr. Chair, may I
Yes.
make a comment? I want to emphasize a couple points here because I think this is important. This has been a great year at the Convention Center. 21% over projected revenue for the year with still a couple days left in this month to take care of. $65,000. I mean, we're moving the right direction. So where we've had to kind of struggle over the past with trying to make sure we were competitive and things, I think we're doing some things now that are allowing us to get more shows in. Mary, I got to tell you, a couple things I've seen. First, we've had a great military ball season. That's a big deal for us. Having those, I think, was it 17 this year?
17, and I'm projected to do 18 this next fiscal year.
So we're back in the game there. You know, when Wilmington opened up, we lost some, just obviously it was a new facility. Second thing, we're starting to see the conventions come back. I mean, I've seen the parking lot filled this spring more so than I have probably in the last 5 years with groups wanting to come back to New Bern. Again, newness wearing off in Wilmington. There's still some challenges there with hotels and things. So I think we're on the right path, kind of getting back where we were. But this is a good sign to me. And I think the last thing I want to say, so I don't forget it, is a couple months ago you came back with a budget amendment for increase in alcohol sales, direct reflection of using the facility more. You sell more alcohol when you have more events. So it's been a good year.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like to congratulate Mary on running the convention center.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Roll call.
Any further discussion? Any no further discussion, a roll call vote.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Martin?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Department Matters, Human Resources, amend personnel resolution, Amber Parker.
Morning, Chairman, Commissioners. I'm here to request an amendment to Craven County's personnel resolution. The county's health insurance, our self-funded plan, will experience a 10% rate increase for fiscal year 18-19, and the rates of retiree health insurance coverage are listed in the Craven County personnel resolution based upon the fiscal year 17-18 rates, as shown in the current policy language in your packets. The 10% increase will be passed along to be paid by retirees unless the above referenced policy is amended to reflect the 18-19 rates, as shown in the proposed policy language.
Okay, do I have a motion to amend the personnel resolution?
So move.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Questions by the commissioners? And there's no? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Warren, Finance Director.
Good morning, Board. I have several items on the agenda for you this morning. The first one is the water treatment plant. I'm happy to present to the Board this morning the budget, the final budget amendment and the project ordinance update closing the Castle Hayne Aquifer project, now known as the water treatment facility. This project began in 2008 and consisted of several phases, including drilling test wells, pre-design and site acquisition, plant design, and construction phases. As reflected in the project ordinance, the total budgeted for the project was $32,256,507. Of that amount, the actual expenditures were $30,944,580, coming in under budget by $1,311,927. The project shows this savings as a transfer back to the Water Operating Fund. Revenues from this project consisted of $16,178,995 in loan proceeds from the North Carolina Drinking Water Revolving Loan Program at 0% interest for 20 years, while the remaining came from the cash reserves of the Water Operating Fund. Additional revenues reducing the amount of contributed by the Water Operating included interest of about $34,418 and some sales tax refunds on the contractor's invoices. All expenditures and revenues for this project have been recorded and are now ready to be closed out. I'd like this time to ask the Board to approve the accompanying budget amendment and the update to the project ordinance closing this project.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is a good example of fiscal conservatism on this board, also on the water department, and also our staff. I mean, there's no other way you can explain it, because we have some of the least expensive public water available in the state, certainly in this area. And that didn't just happen by accident, and we were able to fund a new water treatment plant that was essentially mandated by the state. There was nothing wrong with our other one, but we had to abide by the mandate, and were able to pay for almost half of that plant out of the capital reserve account of the water department. So that saved the taxpayer an awful lot of money right there. But again, thank you, Board, thank you, staff, for enabling us to have water that is very inexpensive and it's actually good water. I can't tell the difference between that and the stuff my wife buys at the store in plastic bottles, but thank you very much.
Okay, any other comments? All right, we have a
That's
motion.
right.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say that this is what we call conservative planning. When we first began this plan, old water was really free. then when we finally have the plant, we find the water has gotten so scarce because we had to move from the Castle Haynes to the Black Aquifer. Move from the Black Aquifer to the Castle Haynes. And that's what you call good planning. If we had just assumed that everything will be all right later on, we'd be in the same problem that a lot of these cities and states have right now. But we are very fortunate to have a brand-new water plant when everybody else is trying to get water all up and down the state because of water shortage. So, Lord have really blessed this county in a mighty way.
Okay, and I would like to commend the county manager for staying on top of this. We had a lot of problems in the beginning, and but because of him, we were able to complete this project. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Martin?
Yes.
Thank you. I also have on the agenda several budget amendments here as we are wrapping up fiscal year end. The first one is for the health and the self-insurance fund. Health benefit claims for the fiscal year are running ahead of budget amounts by approximately 5%. Workers' comp claims have also been higher than anticipated and higher than last year by 80% so far this year. Also included in the budget amendment are estimates that we are required to book for the claims that are incurred up to June 30th that have not been paid. We must book that liability here at year end, and this budget amendment contemplates those estimates. In order to cover these higher than projected costs for the year end, it is anticipated that additional funds of $600,000 will be needed. Miscellaneous revenues of $40,000 will help offset the need, and those are coming from the pharmacy rebates that we generate within the self-insurance plan. A total of $560,000 fund balance from the self-insurance fund will be appropriated.
Okay. Rather than voting on each one, can we do all three and then vote?
If that's the board's pleasure.
Everybody in accordance with that? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Chairman, I guess with that said, though, if we could ask questions at each one of these?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
The 80% ahead of last year for the workers' comp claims, can you give us some description as to what those claims might be?
Some of those, and some of this is based on projected estimates on some claims that are still in the works. And I don't believe that I can speak on some of those currently, but again, it's a hit or miss type of item. You can't really project what type of claims you're going to experience.
Yeah, Craig's right. Just to be careful of not
No, I don't
getting
want
too deep.
specifics, I've just.
There was a couple, at least one significant event that we are dealing with at this point, that, projections are all over the place of what that one may be.
Okay, so it's largely driven by one instance or two instances.
And also, last year's claims were so low that it doesn't take many to actually make the percentage look higher.
Okay.
We had a really good year, and then we've had kind of a okay year, but there's one.
Okay.
Ms. Parker's got a very good point on the claims. Over the years, our workers' comp has been a bright spot.
My point is that we're not seeing a pattern occur of activity or potential abuse or anything like that?
No, sir. These
Okay.
are legitimate claims that are just so happen to hit us in the current
Thank
fiscal year.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I know you've told us, how much money have you got in this fund balance here?
$2.9 million.
2.9 million.
And as we, with the budget, passage of the fiscal 19 budget, there is a 10% increase that will help us try to get out in front of these projected increases.
Okay.
Moving on to the second budget amendment I have for you this morning. This one's related to the restricted portion of the Article 40 and 42 sales tax. Those sales tax collections are running ahead of budget for the year and are anticipated to exceed original projections. As a result, the budgeted transfer to the debt service fund for the restricted portions of Articles 40 and 42 are also expected to exceed estimated projections. At this time, it's estimated that additional revenues of $200,000 in sales tax collections to be budgeted in addition to the offsetting transfer to the debt service fund.
Any questions on? Okay.
Okay, the last one is a transfer to the capital reserve. During the fiscal year, the county has received unanticipated revenues over what was budgeted from several sources. Those include $368,000 from the state's Medicaid sales tax swap agreement, $621,000 from the health department's Medicaid cost settlement, and additional $282,000 in interest earned on the investments. As we end the first fiscal year, the county remains in a very strong financial position in the general fund. Part of that is the result of this board's support for the capital reserve fund. At this time, as requested, that in anticipation of these additional revenues received over expenditures for the current fiscal year, I'd like to have the board's approval to transfer up to $1 million into the capital reserve fund for future capital projects and uses.
Any questions or comments on that?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Lyon.
Great. I understand this, and I know this, but I know the public don't. By looking at these figures, this is $271,000 above what you want to put into capital. And I talked to the manager about this. It may be a good time, or in the future, to put in where the other $271,000. I know we taken it out when we worked the budget for adding things into the budget. But looking at this, it says, you know, you'd think you got $271,000. Where you doing what are you doing with it? So I understand it, but the public may not, by looking at this, of what we got, but you're only putting $1 million in it, so you may want to take a look at where's the other money at. I know what we've done with it, but what do you?
Okay. Anybody? All right, we have a motion and a second on all three amendments. A roll call vote is needed.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Moore?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next are appointments. Appointments will be effective immediately unless otherwise specified. Current appointments, Emergency Medical Service Advisory Council, and I see we have an application for a Tom Brubaker, a submitted application contained in 14B for appointments. Do I have a motion to appoint?
So moved.
Fire Tax Commissioner Sue Authors, representing Township 6, is succeeding reappointment to the Fire Tax Commission. Her original appointment was July 16th.
Wait, hold on.
You want to hold on that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
He wants to hold on that. NCAC voting delegate, the board will be requested to appoint a commissioner as NCAC voting delegate for the annual conference on August 23rd and 25th. And I believe last year Commissioner McCabe did it for me. Would you like to do it again?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Commissioner McCabe. Upcoming appointments, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, Craven County Planning Board, Adult Care Home Advisory Committee, Craven County Child Protection Team, Craven County Clean Sweep Committee, Emergency Medical Service Advisory Council, and Fire Tax Commissioners. They'll all be coming up next. County Manager's Report. Oh, I'm sorry, Attorney. Forgot about you, James.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to give you some updates on just various things here. No real order to them. I'm really pleased. I think this week, it's a little too early to say a name, but we've got an animal control director we've got an agreement with. I'll be looking for a press release probably midweek. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a great addition, and as you know, that's a new position. I believe recently approved in May. It's going to help us move the needle there. Item 2, I've already mentioned to you that the Public Defender's Office was awarded to Craven County. That is now in the budget for the state. It is now approved. I've already received contact from Indigent Defense, and they're interested to get on the ground and get running here. So I've got my staff already engaged with that. We will be looking at space available. I will try to bring a timeline to you, hopefully sometime in July, to begin that process. At this point, with not really knowing exactly what their numbers are, we need to still be cognizant of space needs and things like that moving forward. Item 4, I want to say a big thank you to Commissioner Scott Dacey for his hard work with Trillium. We had a late call Friday with their leadership. Some of the issues that were contemplated have been worked out, just to make the board aware. From our understanding, the facility here in Craven County Recovery International will maintain its status as open, and we will continue to put our money toward funding the Onslow County Crisis Center and other programs in Craven County. So I look forward to that. There's still a couple decisions we've got to make and work with those, but Commissioner Dacey really headed that up, and I wanted to thank him for that. There was also a late elections bill on Friday. As many are aware, it was talking about one-stop voting and the times for which that could be open. I did speak with Ms. Ray, our elections director. She had some concern because there is a fiscal impact to the county that is not in your budget. I've asked her to let all of it sort itself out. Obviously, it's got to, it's on the governor's desk, so there'll be some more state posturing to do. But if it is passed, and it does make it, it will increase, based on her analysis, our cost of one-stop elections. I've asked her to go ahead and put that together, work with her board, and if so, bring a budget amendment forward, hopefully, again, in the new fiscal year, to make that right. We predicated what's in your budget on what we did last year, or what we did 4 years ago. With that. And lastly, there was a part of last year's state budget, which is a memorandum of understanding between the Department of Social Services and DHHS. It's interesting that it's called a memorandum of understanding because really it's something that's now in law that DSS departments must sign with the state that sets certain guidelines and standards and things that they meet. It was part of a big bill that was heavily negotiated last year. I just wanted to make you aware that Mr. Flowers has negotiated that. Obviously, he had a lot of thoughts, and so did the department. He has attached a statement with that MOU of some of his thoughts, just to be on the record moving forward, because there is some debate about whether the standards are a little too strong, and are we able to meet those. So, want to make you aware of those things. Any questions for me? If not, that's my report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Talking about that, do you feel comfortable with DSS meeting those obligations that he's now signed with that memorandum of understanding? Because it will cost them some if they don't comply.
Right.
Because I've seen on record, other counties have gone on record and totally against this.
Right. I don't, sir, their ability to comply is based on their conversations with me. I have to trust in what they say in the process, which they do. They've got some serious concerns that they can meet the standards. Because some of them are significantly higher than the federal standard. In one case, 20% for one particular item we talked about last week.
Well, and that's what's got me concerned, because it's not only if they don't meet the standards, the state's going to take it over.
Correct.
And there's also fines involved for not complying.
Right.
So,
our concern when we read the general statute, and of course I defer to Jimmy, this wasn't an optional thing. It was the word shall.
Yeah, I mean, it was an optional thing when we started.
Right.
Then it went non-optional, it became mandatory.
Yeah.
From them.
And I think that's where a lot of counties have debate. A memorandum of understanding is typically two parties that mutually agree. You may not like everything, but this was an agreement. I mean, this was they made it sound like something different, basically, than it really is.
I think this board needs to be aware, because this is going to come back. This is going to come back.
I agree. I think it will, and it may not be all that long.
No, if you've read it and looked at it, they're gonna have real issues.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. I also want to make a comment about the public defender position. I think we need to give credit to the Vice Chairman Dacey for the work that he put forth into making this possible. He worked countless hours in trying to get this passed the General Assembly for the last few years. And I publicly want to thank him.
A good lobbyist would have gotten it done much earlier, but thank you.
Thank you, you didn't charge us, though. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay.
And I just remind the board, we have a closed session for personnel at the end of the meeting.
Commissioners' reports. Commissioner Tyson.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to remind everyone that the Great Trent River Raft Race will be held next weekend, next Saturday, in Union Point Park. It's gonna be a really great event, and I hope everybody can attend. It's gonna be a lot of fun, a lot of music, a lot of food, a lot of things to do. And I'd also like to pick up on Commissioner Jones's remark about the public defender, because Commissioner Jones, as you remember, I'm sure, this was actually brought to the board in 2006 or 7. Sure was. The sheriff, Craven County Sheriff, came to us and said, look, we need a public defender here in Craven County. It will help alleviate the overcrowding of the jail, cut down on expenses, et cetera, and it has taken, it's not done yet. Hopefully it will get done, but we've been on this for 10 years now, no, over 10 years, 12 years, I guess. It looks like it's gonna happen, but when you start trying to get the General Assembly and some of the big offices up in Raleigh to respond to something, a lot of times, unless it's an absolute emergency, it takes a long time. I can't imagine it taking 12 years to make a decision on what you're gonna plant on your crops. But anyhow, I do look forward to that, and I think it will be a very successful program for Craven County. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Jones.
Just one item, Mr. Chairman. This past Saturday, the town of Dover, we had the grand opening for our Family Dollar store. To some folks, you wouldn't think that's significant, but to us in the western end of the county, I mean, it's the most monumental thing that we've ever seen, probably in my lifetime, Don. I went in that store, and I had the opportunity to help Mayor Weatherington cut the ribbon, but went in that store. We've got milk, we got bread, we got Tylenol, I mean, whatever we need. I even bought some charcoal while I was there. So, I commend the town of Dover for what they've done to make that reality, and it's going to be a benefit to all of us. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner McKay.
I have a few things here. I had these on my desk for maybe a couple of months now. I gotta get rid of these. I went to a meeting at the convention center and about the North Carolina Human Trafficking Commissioner, about people kidnapping girls and selling them. So I'd like to pass these books along to each commissioner. They can read at their leisure or put them in the corner, what you want to do. I'm gonna get them out of my corner. And I also have the kind of manager one. You got enough there?
Need 1, 2 more.
Everybody got one?
One more.
One more.
County manager, I have one for you. For you and your staff.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Also, tomorrow morning at the St. Paul Catholic Church at 3005 Country Club Road in New Bern, they're having a disaster preparedness workshop there. Which of the fence talks to the hero I'm singing. Tomorrow morning, they're having at the St. Paul Catholic Church at 3005 Country Club Road in New Bern. It's a free registration. They're having a disaster workshop for churches and nonprofit. Come in and join them in to prepare for the storm coming up this year. And it's sponsored by different agencies in the county. And if anyone's interested in coming, the times from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. is the registration. And then from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. is a workshop to prepare you for disaster in Craven County coming up this year. And I'd like to wish all the fathers in North Carolina, all the fathers in Craven County, all the fathers in Harlow District, a hell of a lot. Happy Father's Day, and may God continue blessing each and every one of you each day. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Sampson.
Yes, I, just like to say I attended the birthday party along with Commissioner Tyson, Brown at their center over by the Highway Patrol. He was 107 years old. And this was a great day for me because I've been knowing Brother Brown, I know at least about 40 years. And he generally talked a lot, but he was so excited, he didn't do much talking at the birthday party. But it's really something to see a person, and I know this guy, he's a farmer, he's a mechanic, he used to work on all kind of cars and trucks. And he just was a great young man in the community, great example in trying to help everybody. If you go around there and they have much money, he wouldn't charge the full price for fixing your car, your truck, whatever it was. And he worked till it was, I know it was 100 years old out there trying to fix cars and trucks. But he's a nice guy, and I was able to go around and see some of the other senior citizens that was in the home a lot, I know, out there. And I just like to continue to say that we need to, I told the group out there that they need to not only visit one time, but continue to go out there and visit people, because a lot of people out there don't have families, and the ones that do have families, don't many of the families go see them very seldom. Some of them haven't seen some of the family in 2 or 3 years, maybe even more. So it'd be a good idea if we just realize that we are brothers and sisters keepers, and that we need to be concerned about each other. Thanks, that's all I have.
Commissioner Liner.
Last Thursday was the Salute to Women Vets in Havelock. Had 200 people attend, great event. Don't forget, in September, the military stand down here in New Bern will be going on. So if you haven't been out there and seen that, it's well worth going. I'll have more information at the next meeting. Other than that, that's all, sir.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Dacey.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Just wanted to let folks on the board here know that today at 1 o'clock, the treatment committee of our Craven County Opioid Task Force will be meeting at 1 o'clock. And I will confess I've had to miss the last couple of these meetings because of conflicts with our budget work, but I'm looking forward to today's meeting. If there's anything that any of you want to have brought forward, I'm happy to try to convey those thoughts and concerns. And I will try and report on the work that I learn about at this meeting. I am going to be holding a town hall meeting in River Bend from noon until 1 o'clock on Monday, June 25th. I'll put that up on my website at scottdacey.com. And then I would, as the county manager was kind enough to mention the work that we've been trying to move forward with Trillium, I want to thank him for his diligence on this and frankly, his patience. I've not made this easy on him. I wanted to work hard so that we could possibly get ourselves in a position where we could use the Trillium money in a more effective way to meet the needs of our community and not have to sacrifice any of the things that were going on. I'll be candid, we had to play a little bit of chicken here. And so through that process, it was a little bit frustrating, but at the end of the day, the folks at Trillium did come through, and I'm very, very pleased with their willingness to work with us. And you know, what this means is that the Healing Place and Oxford House, those folks that are doing the work at the ground level in our community to make certain that the needs of people that are suffering from addiction and are trying to transition out of that place are going to continue to be funded. We're going to be able to meet those needs. We're going to also have some flexibility on crisis intervention training, if that's the way that we decide to do it. And we're going to have some opportunities to also be looking at mental health first aid, some things that have been going on in our schools in the past, but we're now going to be rolling out to the adult communities. So I'm hopeful that we will, at the end of the day, be able to have a holistic approach to our concerns in the opioid crisis. And you know, it may not be able to hit everything, and candidly, there may be a request to come back to this board after I leave it for additional funding to address some of these issues, but I think that it will be very modest at best. And so with that, thank you very much, Mr. County Manager, and the indulgence of this board to give me a little bit of rope to go out and get this done. So thank you.
All right. I understand I wasn't available this weekend to be there, but the Bridgeton Blueberry Festival was well attended, and everyone had a good time. I'd also like to congratulate this board for the work they've done for the county and the county manager's staff. I believe that the county is probably in one of the best fiscal conditions it's been in many, many years. And I think that with the cooperation of each commissioner and the county manager's staff, I commend everybody. We'll now go into close, can I have a motion to go into closed session?
Second.
Okay. For personnel. For personnel. NC 143-318-11.